There's a big IFAB meeting going on in Scotland this weekend. So big, in fact, Shaka wasn't invited. Looking at potential changes to the wording of the laws for the start of the new season. A big one on handballs. David Ellery came out and said, we've changed it to say the body has a certain silhouette. So if the arms are extended beyond the silhouette, then the body is being made unnaturally bigger. Now, the purpose of it being, so you won't see anymore, a bigger barrier to the opponent of the ball. Players should be allowed to have their arms by their side. It's their natural silhouette. Should we start with Peter?
Yeah, start with Peter.
Yeah, go with Peter.
Peter, do you like this wording? Does this make it easier for officials?
It makes it slightly easier. I don't think it's the be-all and end-all of that handball. We'll still be having our debates, of course. But what it's saying is that defenders, what we're seeing now, are putting their hands behind their backs. Really, that is such an unnatural position anyway, and that's been ruled out. What they're saying is that if it's a silhouette, so if their hands are by their sides, then that's fine. If the ball hits their arms or their hand, it's not to be decreed as a penalty kick or a free kick. It's where the hand comes out here higher. That's where handballs still will be given.
As players, would you like this? Does this make more sense?
It's still grey.
It's not as grey, is it though?
Well,
you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this anymore.
That's my big thing.
How far does it? How far?
What, just your natural silhouette, just there.
Hands by your side.
Yeah, just by your side.
I like.
It's not natural. It's not natural.
But that's your natural silhouette.
But what it does is it takes away you having, or defenders thinking that they have to put their arms behind their back, which is desperately unnatural.
Right.
So I like the wording of it. I like what it's trying to achieve. Yes, we'll still have debates because that's what we do and that's what the game throws up. But it makes a lot of sense for me to phrase it this way.
But I'll come back on that because there's a good postscript to this. Is that IFAB also said that a goal cannot be scored even if the ball accidentally hits your arm or hits your hand. So what they're saying is you cannot gain an advantage with a goal with the ball striking your arm or hand. So I think that's a good area because we've seen many times this season. I think Aguero had one for Manchester City only a few weeks ago where he's falling on his back and he's accidentally hit the ball with his arm and it's gone in the net and a goal was awarded. Next season, or from the 1st of June, that will not be given, and I think that's quite right.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, but didn't you say this last year, Pete? You're ahead of the game, son. Didn't you say this?
Well.
Didn't you say this last year when I think Alexis Sanchez scored the goal at the Etihad, at the Emirates? I think it was against Man United, and you said the goal was right to be chopped off because it had a material effect in the outcome, hence it went in the goal. So was that kind of not always in play anyway?
Absolutely right there, Craig. And what I was saying then was what football wanted, and that's what we interpreted the law as it stood or as it stands at the moment. And it was my own interpretation to say that you can't have a material gain with a handball, and a goal is a material gain, so it must be chalked off. Whether I was ahead of the curve, I don't think so. It was just the interpretation given worldwide, by the way, on handball, but wasn't written.
Pete, I have to tell you, there was lots of irony in that statement as well, embellishment. But
Love it.
I mean, that's common sense.
Yes,
I mean, that's clear common sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? Other changes, IFAB saying substitutes will have to leave the pitch at the nearest goal line or touch line instead of coming over to the halfway line. This makes sense, doesn't it? It saves everyone a bit of time.
Oh, it doesn't?
What do you mean it doesn't?
Well,
of course it does.
No, it doesn't.
Why not?
Well, listen.
If I'm there on the other side of the pitch and then I have to trot over for 20 seconds, surely it's easier just to go like that.
Would a better way to do this, unless the player has a clear injury, to give any player when the board goes up, to give them a time frame of, say, 10 seconds or so to get off the pitch, otherwise they'll get a booking. I tell you why. If you're saying they have to leave at certain areas, particularly in away grounds, particularly in volatile atmospheres or depending on what's happened in a game, the incitement that will give to the fans, as well as the stick and the abuse the player's going to get, is, I think, going to be detrimental to a player walking off at certain grounds with 20,000 in a stand and some of them late in the game frothing at the mouth. I think that could be slightly problematic for that player.
Peter, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I agree with Craig there, although it will be down to the referee's discretion where that player should leave the field. And if he feels the player's over the far side just because he feels there might be a little bit of time wasting there, he'll say to the guy, to go off from that position there. But as Craig said, if there's something happening in the crowd, if it's an away player with a volatile crowd there, then common sense will say that he'll bring him off at the safest area. So we'll see how it goes. I think it's a good law if we're looking for time keeping, but maybe it needs just to be looked at and defined a little bit better when it comes to security and crowd issues.
We discussed this at the last advisory panel meeting, as I was telling you, Dan. And
Xhaka is on the IFAB advisory board.
yes, yes. And I have to admit, I was the only one who had an issue with this. For a few reasons, it just didn't make an awful lot of sense to me. One, as Craig just mentioned. The other for me is, if a player is substituted on the far side of the field, let's say opposite side to the linesman, and he's wearing his full kit, as he will be as he's just come off, and he stands in a position that makes it difficult for the linesman to see exactly who's on the field, judge offsides, and etc. I think it can become problematic. All that being said, as I mentioned, I was the sole voice in on this because everybody felt that the timekeeping or time wasting element of it outweighed any chance of that being detrimental.
That shows the weight you have, Shaq.
Yes.
Well, that's what happens.
None.
Pitch up now and again. I don't understand. I mean, I know we don't want to see it, and I know sometimes it's frustrating to watch players walk off slowly. I've done it myself. But the referee, and I know sometimes it can affect the pace of the game, and the crowd get frustrated. But the referees add that on. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
It's not. The guy's taking 30 seconds or 20, 40 seconds to walk off, and he's not going to add that on. The referees and the assistants, the fourth official, already add that on. It's just the fact it's a pain in the backside because you won't watch the guy going off. It doesn't affect greatly the timekeeping of the game. It's not a major disaster.
What else has stood out for you, Peter? Well, there's talk of there'll be no attacking players allowed in a defensive wall.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I mean, the only reason you see attacking players go into a defensive wall is to disrupt the defence and disrupt the focus and concentration of the defence. So to take that away from the referee, I think it's good. So from next year or from next season, you'll see attackers a metre away from the defensive wall, which I think is a good way.
Like it?
I'm neither here nor there with that, to be honest.
Are you here or there?
Not particularly. I think players do that now. You go into wall. You go into a wall. If you're
you always see the attackers kind of there.
You go into a wall and defenders will have their way with you, for want of a better
Okay, like
phrasing.
push you away, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
But you get your toes stood on. There's all sorts of naughtiness goes on in those incidents. And if you're sensible, you stand a metre away anyway.
Speaking of naughtiness,
in terms of laws of the game, in terms of the laws of the game and things that they need changing, that's one of those that's right down the bottom.
Yeah, I think they are.
That's ripping the backside out of your free trip to an IFAB meeting to try and justify why you're there. 0.100.
What about the goalkeeper for the penalty shootout now having 1 foot on the line?
Yeah, that makes total sense because we're talking about natural movements and etc. To have 1 foot either in the air or straddling the line is just kind of natural to how goalkeepers dive anyway, so it makes sense.
And then any time
I missed that one. Because clearly I've not read the things. But what's that one?
So when you're taking a penalty kick,
it's not difficult.
The law previously stated that you have to have both feet on the line or over the line. Now the law is being changed so that you only need to have 1 foot on or over the line.
Here you go. Goalies. And Pete, is it right that suggests as well that if your penalty is saved, you can't score the rebound?
That's right, yes. If the penalty is saved or it comes off the post, you don't have a second attempt at it. So, the game is stopped at that moment.
Why?
Because you have all these... Let's take the game from last Saturday, the Arsenal-Spurs game where Vertonghen is encroached into the area and hasn't been picked up. Those sort of things, and you have a melee. IFAB are looking to clean the game up, basically, and they're saying that a penalty kick is your strike on goal, and if you miss it for whatever reason, you don't have a second attempt.
Yeah, you don't, but others can have a second attempt, correct?
Other people can, but you can't.
But you can.
That seems weird.
Do you know what the problem is
in that incident that Peter's quoting there, the ball didn't fall directly back to Aubameyang.
No, it didn't.
It went wide.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't fall into this remit.
Encroached.
Yes, but to Peter's point, as far as this law change goes, it doesn't apply.
I think you've got to be careful to a certain extent. I mean, I'm sorry to get off a different subject here, but they've changed a lot of the laws in golf recently, and it's a dog's dinner at the moment. When the professionals are playing, you watch it on TV. PG in America,
They need me at those meetings.
they've changed a lot of these rules. And I'm telling you...
But these rules aren't that complicated.
The ones in golf aren't that complicated, but it's a dog's dinner at the moment. The players are getting affected by it, the caddies are getting affected by it. So all I'm saying is, you've got to be careful with this change.
They're not big changes, are they?
They're not big changes.
Who's going to make a dog's dinner of this?
You've seen Peter Walton and his colleagues refereeing. Those referees can make a dog's dinner of anything. Right?
Nick Faldo over there.
You complicate things. All I'm saying is, even simple changes to the laws can have confusing complications, right? Just because you don't watch golf, I'll watch it. I see it.
We've got to go, apparently. We wasted too much time talking about the golf. Thank you very much to Peter Walton. Always good to have you on, mate. Much appreciated. Champions League, of course, back tomorrow. Spurs Dortmund, isn't it? The big one. We'll, of course, be reflecting on that, plus Ajax against Real Madrid. It is tight at the top of the Bundesliga. In fact...